from here. We're holding by us. Basically, the lashon the Erdin Sof, Lamaila Adin Kes, Lamata Adin Tachlis. That according to the simple Avon of Erdin Sof, Lamaila Kes, Lamata Adin Tachlis, the pshat is that Erdin Sof is everywhere. He's ain't safe. Maybe it's in everywhere. It's not that in him himself there's Maila Mata. Maila Mata is no Ilamis. There's different dargis in Ilamis. So Yenim, Ilamis, Tachtenim, there's Maila Adin Kes, Lamata Adin Tachlis, and Erdin Sof is Nimtza Lamata Lamata. So the fact there's not two separate in Yonim. The fact that the Insof is Nimtza Lamaila Lamata is not two separate in Yonim. It's not that the fact that he's Nimtza Lamaila is because he's Shaykh to Maila. And the fact that he's Nimtza Lamata is because he's Shaykh to Mata. If the fact that he's Nimtza Mispashet Lamaila, that he's present, and that he's felt, and that his Metzias exists in all dargas, is because he's Shaykh to every darga, like you say, Ben Ibrahim, the one thing exists somewhere else, or one thing is present somewhere else. That the musig of something existing in a certain space means that his Metzias has a certain Shaykhis to that place. So then the fact that Insav is Nimsa Lamayla, and the fact that Nimsa Lamata is two separate in Yonim. But the fact the MS is that Insav is Ein Safe. He's not Shaykhis, not Tamayla, not Tamata. Mayla Mata are both Gvul. So the fact that Ein Saf, which is Amitis Abli Gvul, is Nimsa, Sayin Mayla and Sayin Mata, is not because he's Shaykhis that it's Surah of Mayla and Shaykhis that it's Surah of Mata. It's because he's Ein Safe. To say that something is a different word. So the fact that you cannot, Insav is not Mugdir Makim. The whole musig of Makim is not a musig which is Kaim Lagabi Insav. The musig that the musig of Makim is that an Inyan has a certain tchum where it belongs, has a certain area where it's places. And so that's already a certain Akbala. Something which has a certain Ageder and a certain Akbala, Shaykh has to say that he's in a specific place. In order for him to be in another place, he has to relate to the other place. But Sheikh Ein Sav is Ein Safe, Bli Gvul. His Ein Safe is the whole musik of Akbala, which is Gizak Gavan Legabe Ein Sav. So the Gabe Meili is Nimsa B'Kal Makim because it's not because saying that he can't be somewhere or that he's not present somewhere is saying Akbala. And Akbala is not Shaykh to say Legabe Ein Sav. It's Bli Akbala. So it's a different type of being in a place. So then factor if the word is that Ein Sav is Nimsa B'Kal Makim, but passage der Lashon the Lamaila the Kes Lamata the Tachas, as if it's two separate in Yon, that he's Sai Lamaila and Sai Lamata. The word is Leisis Arpanimine. I'm saying last time, the word Leisis Arpanimine is it's not Shaykhis that there should be a place that he's not there. Because when we say we're not saying that he's Shaykh everywhere. There's no kesher between him and the Asar. We're saying as a Kenyer Zain and Asar, regardless of what type of Asar. Kenyer Zain and Asar which is Panimine. Why? Because that's going to be an Akbala. And Ein Sof means that he has no safe, he has no Akbalas. Ramesh can see what it means Amitis Ein Sof. But the Satar says in Tanya that Ein Sof Betachlis is not Shaykh. The whole musik of Makim is not Shaykh, is only Shaykh which is something which has a Akbala. But shaking something which is Ein Safe, which has no Akbala, it's not Shaykh to say that he's Shaykh, that is Chomer. That whole idea is not present to begin with. So the way he is Ein Safe, the way he is in his Pshitis, he's everywhere. Oh, so maybe what's the Pshat? So if them hate the Mazbur saying, why B'chlal, the Shaila, why did they call the Eibush B'Shem Ein Sof? According to this, Havana, now we're learning now in the Maimer is, when the Lashon says in Kabbalah Erd Ein Sof, when it says the Lashon Kabbalah Ein Sof, we're dealing with Etzem, we're dealing with Atzmos. So then, in fact, in the Shaila and Chassidus, if we're dealing with Atzmos, they have to get on roof and Ein Leitchila, not Ein Safe. Why? Because there's a big difference between when you say Ein Safe and Ein Leitchila, that brings away from the Rameh. Ein Safe, theoretically, the musik of Ein Safe, of something which has no limits, there could be also an Ibrahim. But Ein Leitchila, there cannot be an Ibrahim. It's Ein Safe, but there's a big difference. It's not the pshat that Ein Safe could also be an Ibrahim. The way the Eibusher is Ein Safe and the way the Nivra is Ein Safe is two separate musagim. The musig of Ein Safe, the way it is by Ibrahim, is theoretically speaking, this Nivra is shaykhis to have a hefsik. The same way it began, the same way the cloud is called Mishi Yesh Leitchila Yesh Leitchila. If it has a beginning, if there's a certain point in time that it started, that's also Machayah. That means that Atzmim, it's that his gather, he has a tichla, he has a safe. Because what does it mean that he has a beginning? That means that Be'etzim he doesn't exist. Without a specific reason, without a specific inyan was that the Mechayev given, but we get Vashafen or a certain Sibba, Mitzad Atzmei, but nicht given. So even that's what nicht given, Yesh Leitchila, so a mele could also have a hefsik. He's mistaken to have a hefsik. He's not Ein Safe. Dafka is something which ain't Leitchila. So something which has no tchila, it's not the pshat as you say, the Eibusher was always. And no tchila means his mitzias exists mitzad atzmei. Azam a certain zach darf sein. Mitzad atzmei he has to be. It's mechuyev mitzias. It's not shaykhis that he shouldn't be. That's mitziusim atzmusi. The part of mitziusim atzmusi is the fact that he exists is neveh mitzad his etzem. It's not neveh mitzad the siba shechutzulei. He doesn't exist because of a certain occurrence, therefore he exists. He, by definition, he exists. Because Sazam is certain etzem was darv zayin, and under certain inyan. So in such an inyan, ein leitchila, so mele since is mitzius, it's not neveh from a certain tchun, mitzad a certain siba. So mele is not shayach to shava hefsek. Hefsek is shayach if your mitzius is only nischadesh, is only neveh, mitzad the givis nekuda, so you're totally on something. So be batla siba, batla mesubah. The minute the reason which caused you to exist is going to be in his battle, but there's not echnas battle event. But the mitzvah sadat is not a davar nitzchim. If ein leitchila, if your mitzvah is not neveh from anything, it's because intrinsically this muhuz dar zayin not mitzad anything. Sazam esor zach which is it's kimelish gevarn. Sazam esor zach was is so mele, so it's always going to be. It's not shaykh to say hefsek. It's not. Oh, so the shaila is so it's not glad to say shaila. Why do they call the Eibusher ein seif and not ein leitchila? It's a much deeper shaila. The word ein seif could also mean you have nevrayim which are ein seif. So the ein seif could also mean something which be'etzem mitzad his teva is mesugel to be nifsak. But lepoel mamish is ein seif. Mashiach the Eibusher is ein seif is that it's not shaykh as the hum basig of seif. He's not stam lepoel mamish ein seif. So that's correct. Good. So he brings the machlekes and mukubalim, but he get the keser. Yeah, I said there's two machlekes which are both totally of a
Yeah. The oifen of ein seif, when you see once a niv that's ein seif, you see the Eibusher that's ein seif. It's the same oifen of ein seif.
No, it's two different musig ein seif. The poel mamish, the poel.
Does it tell the difference if you look at it?
Payil v'chitzenius. We're going to see later the pratim. I'm saying in the payil mamish is a nivra mamish. I'm saying we'll see when they get to a nivra kipshuta. Mashal shemesh v'yirech have a kiyum nitzchi. So the payil mamish, their kiyum is not like is a kiyum nitzchi. The payil is chazakim kiyum yibarim. The exact same energy that they had when they were first in Hachodesh, they have the same energy today. It's a kiyum nitzchi. But there's a lashon chassidus that even now there's a fseidus in the shemesh, but it's not nikir. Okay, but that's a separate thing. So Kafan da bringt, so that's verstehen he brings like this. So first he answers, according to one Shidduch Samgabalim, we understand why the in Sifrei Kabbalah the Eibush is called Insof, because according to one Shidduch, Meret Takanish V'Ganatzmos, Meret V'Keser. It brings the Shidduch Samgabalim, the Mekabalim Arishenim before the Ramak is right before the Arizal, so we have the Mekabalim Arishenim before the Ramak. It's means the Rameh Mipano, and the Mekabalim before in that Kofa, that they said that Keser is Insof. So that's Dr. Freer. That's something which is negate. There's Kula Alma. There's a mile of Kesser. There can be all other spheres. So what's b'shteit the mile? It's important. It's going to be negate to the Hemshech. The mile b'shteit in them that all other spheres, Chacham and Lamata is already the way it's connected to Kedem. The way it's where the Kusis is gal in Gvul, where the Kusis is gal in Sir. Mashiach in Kesser, there's no Kedem in Kesser. Kesser is where it's Meir the Pshitas of Alakus, higher than Sir, higher than Agdara, higher than definition. The dogmas, like I said, when you get to the nefesh, the difference between Ratz and all other keiches. All other keiches, each keich is a certain sir prati. There's seichel, there's midas, chacham, bin das. So each keich is a certain sir prati. And the nefesh is mizgaled through chachma, is the way the nefesh is mizgaled through the specific sir of chachma and chesed, whatever the sir is. Mashik in Ratzin is not. There's no keich in the nefesh. There's no sir prati where the nefesh is mislavish into want. What the type of Ratzin is that the nefesh b'cholusa is nimshach to something. So when you're drawn to something, I want something. What does it mean I want? It's not that that the I is mislavish in a certain keli. Like when I understand, understanding is not I. Understanding is a certain keli the nefesh uses in order to relate to something. Ratzin is not a certain keli, a certain tool that the nefesh uses in order to relate to something. Ratzin means that the nefesh is nimshach. The I is drawn towards something. So it's not drawn, it's not a mitzvah of a keach. It's the nefesh kamesha who is nimshach to something. So what's the nukodah? So you say keser is al derech ratzin. That the uft of keser is punkt. As if you say when you get to ratzin nefesh, that is the nefesh with the gilei nefesh without not the way the nefesh is malubish in a certain siur, in a certain kayach, in a certain in mugd, in a certain in prati. Al derech when we say keser is the gilei lakus. The way the lakus is higher than siur. So it's makif, it's al reish. It's not a siur prati. It's not in of gvul. It's the pshitas of a lakus. So it's ain't safe. We'll see later what exactly what if Ein Sof means bligvul. We're going to see the Hemshech advarim. But that's the barbar that Keser is the lashon that he brings over here is that the mile of Keser is that it's Eiris without Kalim. Means it's the Gilei Alakus without a tzir, without Agbala. Yeah. We saw that lashon last time. I don't know if you went through the Hagois, but that's we just look in the Hagah. We didn't read. He says Leis b'chol asiris mechacham mati yesh Kalim. Aber bekeser lo yesh bekelim. Yesh koser bezer v'taman leis mana lemintfus. There's no levush in order to be teifus. So akapanim in keser there's no tzir, there's no levush, there's no tzir, there's no kelim. That's like so akapanim that's ein zach. But in dem steht machlek is the back mit Kabbalah Marishin. The Kabbalah Marishin I'm going to learn that Keser is not a mechudesh ma'in liyesh. In other words, that Gvul, Tziyur has to be in his Chadash. Gvul, be'etzem, darf nicht sein Gvul. Why does it have to be Dafke Chochmah and Chesed? Be'etzem, saying without being Mechadash Gvul, Mecher Tesed the Gvul has to be. Mitzad Atzmi, Gvul doesn't have to be. Mitzad Atzmi doesn't have to be any specific Tziyur. So Gvul it has to be in his Chadash. And if there's no Mitzad Atzmi, Gvul doesn't exist. Mashikin Keser, which is a Lakus without any Tziyurim, Pshitis, no Tziyur, that doesn't have to be in his Chadash. That's be'etzem. That's the I'm saying the lashon that's used in the Maimon. Gvul, if you look in the Agah, says Gvul Kalim has to be mechudesh. Kulim mechudesh ma'in liyesh. Leis b'chol tzirus nechach mad yesh Kalim, and Kalim is b'yesh ma'in. He means also the word of yesh, but I'm saying a pasha says the lashon the way we understand it al pi pshutei. Kalim, which is Gvul has to be in his chadash. Be'etzem, why is saying how does mitzias begin? You say what is the emes? How is the mitzias mitzad atzmi without any without creating anything? Mitzad atzmi, there's no tzir. So that's what this pshitas. A specific tzir is already meichates this type of tzir. Meichates any type of agol. Meichates a certain form. So that has to be in his chadash. But pshitas, mitzias, which is beyond tzir, beyond the specific form of mitzias. So l'chora that doesn't have to be in his chadash. That's be'etzem. So that's not atzmas. Atzmas is higher than the musik of blik v'lider. We'll see later. But upon him, the Kabbalah said since keser is pshitas, no tzir, no gvul. B'meila it's not mechudesh ma'in liyesh, and b'meila keser is ein sof, because since keser has no tchila, b'meila ein leitichla. Keser is ein sof. Now like the shemesh v'yereach. The shemesh v'yereach are not be'etzem ein sof. The shemesh v'yereach are be'etzem mitzad der tchuna der dvarim mugbalim. The pile, the Eibishter wants that they shouldn't have seidus bisman, so the meila v'kim nitzchim. Shaken according to the beer of the Kabbalah, keser is ein sof. Because anything which has no tchila has no tichla. And since Keser has no beginning, it's not mechudesh, B'meila has no say. We'll see, I'm just saying the pashtus, the advarim, the way, we'll see the prat. The way he's saying it here, it's because Gvul has to be in his chadash. Mashikin Keser, which is true, doesn't have to be in his chadash. Saying the lashon yeah, that's a big pelle. And they bring the Yisad is Maimer Chazal. The Chazal is that actually Nivra Elam Hoyu Yishmei Bilvad. So the Kabbalah Marishenim Taish says before Bria, before it doesn't only mean Nivra Elam and Bizdervel. Before the whole Musik of Bria, before anything was in Chadash, it wasn't only the Eibishter himself. There was a name. So Mashmah says Matishdav Bashaf in their nomen. If the name also had to be created, so what's Ashalin? So that's also part of Nivra. So what's the pshat? Even before anything was created, Elikus Mitzadatzmi. Elikus Mitzadatzmi. There's the Eibishter and he has his name. What's the Kabbalah Marishenim Taish? That Shmai, that's Chanas Keser. And what's the Pashas Mashmos Haloshin? Mashmos Haloshin Apshuta. That Keser didn't have to be created. So he says Keser. The Vrei Masi Shaper. Why in Sifra Kabbalah vert angeruf in the Rebbe Shabashem in Saf and not in Litchila? Because we're not taking Nish Veganatsis. We're not taking Keser. And Keser, you can't say Ein Litchila the Gabi Keser. What's the Lashon Hamayim? Because Keser, even though Keser has no beginning in the sense that it was never in a Schadish in a certain point in time, but Keser has a market. Since there's a taich of Ein Leitchila, not only that he has no beginning, but he has no tchila, he has no makir, and that taich came to the Gabi Keser. So maybe Keser is called Insav. That's the lashon, the way the. But upon him, what I'm saying, we'll see later. We're going to get to this prat. I said, I think it was better to speak about it when he discusses the Mamish Hachodesh and the Mamish Hemshech. He discussed it clearly. What's the shiddur on Kabbalah? What's the machlekes of the Ramak and the Kabbalah Medicinian? But upon the lashon, the way it is here, the mashmos says that it's al derech, like you say that the shemesh is muchrach in the air which is mispashit from the shemesh. So from when the shemesh is here, automatically you also have the light which is mispashit from the shemesh. So the light is a davar mispashit min hashemesh. It's not the etzem. It's not the mocker. It's a davar mispashit min hamocker. But it's not that. The air is in the tchil in the sense that from when you have the shemesh, automatically you have the air too, because the shemesh is not. So there say that's the mashmos. Even lifnei, even kedim shnivra elam, it wasn't only the Eibishter. There was Eibishter and he had a name. So it's not shaykh to say the Eibishter is muchrech to have a name. Say there's nothing is the Eibishter is not muchrech in anything. There's no mekanach zagen the Eibishter is forced to have a name. Chas v'shalom. So what's the pshat that according to these shittis, from when you have the etzem you have keser? What's the pshat in them? The Eibishter doesn't the whole almost second one is chadish. The musik of rotzen of keser also is chadish geworden. But that's the pashtus lashon of the Kabbalah. And the Vrei Masi Shaper that Ein Softak is dealing with Keser. We're not dealing with Atzmas HaBeireh. Yeah, that's the same thing he brings from the Kabbalah Marishenim later, that Ein Sof later. He brings another machlekes. First machlekes is what's the mile of Keser. see if Kesser is Ein Sof or not. So here, because the Shidduch Kabbalah Marishenim Gehalten the Kesser is Ein Sof. Then it makes another machlekes. When it says Ein Sof, what do we mean with the lashon Ein Sof? So the Kabbalah Marishenim learned that Ein Sof, we're not dealing with Atzmos Habeirah. We're dealing with Kesser, Ratzon. He brings the same that Rameh Pano. Rameh Pano says that when in Sifrei Kabbalah, Nusman the lashon Ein Sof, we're dealing with the B'chinas Ratzon, B'chinas Kesser. So we're dealing with and then there's V'nikra Sibur Rishayna I'll call him same. Mashiach and the Musaf Atzmos in the Yachas Afilu Ter Sibur. We have to remember that. We'll see why is negate this word. So here he brings the machle according to the Kabbalah Marishayim. When Shas Severt Angeruf in Kabbalah, Ein Sof, we don't mean Atzmos, we mean Ratzon, B'chinas HaKesser. And then he adds that this B'china is also called Sibur Rishayna I'll call him same. This is an important word. It means that Lagabi the Nimtzaim, the highest and the Sibur Rishayna for the Nimtzaim is Ein Sof, is Kesser. The Eibusher is the Makar Akel, Atzmos is the Makar from out, but that's not called, but Ein Liyachas Afilu Ter Siva. That's like on a different plane of Mitzias Lagamri. Lagabi, the realm of Nimtzaim, the Sibur Rishayna is Kesser. This word also has to do with the fact that that's also one of the pratim, the Havana of their Shita, the Kesser is Ein Sof inside that. They don't mean that Kesser, when you say Achal Nivra Elam, the Kavana is not that Kesser, the Mitzad the Eibishter. Mitzad Atzmos, Kesser didn't have to be Nischadish. Avad, Meretish Mitzad the Elyon, Mitzad Atzmos, everything had to be Nischadish. Mitzad Atzmos, the Eibishter is not Murchach in anything. But Legabi Eilamis, the Metzias of Eilamis, Kesser didn't have to be Nischadish. We'll see later the Prat Edvar. But that has to do with this lesson that he says here, that according to the Shit of the Kabbalah Marishayim, what's considered the Sibur Rishayna, Elkanim saying? What's the first initial the Makir? I mean, we're dealing with the Mizgeres of Elamis. What's considered the Sibur Rishayna for the Mitzvah of Elamis? That's Kesser. Mashiach and Atzmos is Kavayachol, not even a cause for Elamis. We can't call him a cause. He's the Makir Akel, but not Beged the Sibur. And then was the Prat Advarim. That's we'll see. That's one point. That's Kedai. We'll see. I'm just saying this lashon is going to be important to remember. We'll see. I'm saying it's Kedai to discuss it when Imam goes into the Prat and I'm just saying these are Pratim. Oh, then we have the Ramak. The Ramak is already the next there. The Ramak halt in both of these pratim is chelik. It's totally zebazeh. The Ramak halt mesadecha that Kesser is also mechudesh ma'anliyesh. See, like I was saying, we have to understand the hezbollah. He's not only mechudesh the gabi atzmos. That's the kula alma Kesser's. The atzmos is not mechudesh to have Kesser, but he's mechudesh even the gabi elamis. Kesser is mechudesh. Punkt as if he's sfiris is chadesh ma'anliyesh. Kesser is a b'china of an etzel. Ratzin, and there's no tzir in Ratzin, but it's a musig of pshitis. And the musig of pshitis is also a musig. Atzmas is shlilas kol ateirin. You can't say bligvol legabe atzmas either. Shlilas agvol, shlilas abligvol. The musig of bligvol is also a musig. So according to the Ramak, punkt as if gvol was nischadish. The musig of bligvol, of heder atzir, of pshitis is also nischadish. According to the Kabbalah Marishayim, pshitis was nischadish. Even the shitasam, atzmas is higher than pshitis. We'll see later. But according to the shitasam, the musig of pshitos is not considered mechudesh. Shaken according to the Ramah, Kesser, which even according to the Ramah, Kesser has a mile. But Kesser Ava became Kesser is mechudesh according to the Ramah. But the mile of in Vazbashid the mile of Kesser, that there's a higher ha'ard of Ein Sof Meir in Kesser. The Amitas Ein Sof is not Meir in Kesser. Kesser has a mile that is the bligvul of Elchus is Meir in Kesser. We'll see there's a mile in Kesser according to the Ramak. But the Vidvar of Kesser is mechudesh. That's prat number one. Another prat with the Ramak is chelik is that b'shas the word the month Sifrei Kabbalah Ein Sof retten wegen atzmos according to the Ramak. We're not dealing with Kesser. According to the Kabbalah Marishayim, b'shas the word the month Kesser retten wegen Ein Sof. According to the Ramak, when we say Ein Sof, we mean atzmos. So this is not, even though it doesn't touch today's behedya when it comes according to the, but the divrei Ramak, it's not so b'shas meret. What's the sibur rishayna lanim tzayim? According to the Ramak, it's going to be atzmos. The shitas some Kabbalah Marishayim. The Sibur Rishayna al Kalanim Tzayim is Kesser. And Atzmos is Mech'ein Liyachas Afilu Teres Sibur. Shaken according to the Ramak, Atzmos is Kaviyochel Shaychas to the Bria. In both of these pratim, the Ramak is Chelik on the Kabbalah Marishayim. We'll see and the Arizal Zachra, in both of these unionim. Arizal Zachra Sadi Gabi Kesser, because according to the Arizal Mesadechot, Kesser is Mechudesh. Le'idach, according to the Arizal, Kesser is a Shaychas to Ein Sof. Kesser is Ein Sof, because Arizal says the B'china Al Yene should be Kesser. It's B'china Tachtene should be Ein Sof. So one Arizal says, in other words, Achra, and Kesser is Achra. The Mekabbalah Marishayim learn that Kesser is Ein Sof. The Ramak learns that Kesser is Mechudesh. And according to the Arizal, there's two B'chinas in Kesser. B'chinas Ardich is the Mokar for the Netzalim is Mechudesh. And B'chinas Al Yene Shebe Kesser, B'chinas Atik is B'chinas Tachtene Shebe Ein Sof. So that's Pasha the Memud, the Achrav, the Arizal, the Gabi Keser. And Al Derech Zeh is Machriach, even though that's not Mefurish in the Arizal, the Achrav Keser is Mefurish in the Arizal. It says Rechriya Arizal. Because the Arizal says that in Keser there's both of these Pchinas. There's Pchinas Tachtein Shiva Matzel, which is Ein Sof, and Pchinas Yen Shiva Netzalim, which that's Pchinas Mechudesh, Pchinas Reish Netzalim. And then the Rebbe Ram Shasayidin proves here that according to the Arizal, there's Achra also the Gabi the Musig of Ein Sof. Because from the Arizal's Lashon you see it says Tachtein Shiva Ein Sof, Yen Shiva Ein Sof, Tachtein Shiva Ein Sof. From the Arizal's Lashon there's a Hechrech that Ein Sof Mitzad Echad is not Keser, but Dugmas like the Ramak, it's not Keser. Leidach it's not Atzmus. From the very fact that the Arizal says not like the Ramak either. So according to him, Mitzad Echad Ein Sof is not Atzmus. Min dem is Masim with the Rameh Mipano. That he also holds that he says Ein Sof is Keser. According to the Arizal, Ein Sof is not Atzmus. Because if it's Atzmus, it's not trying to say Pchina Tachtein and Pchina Yena. Leidach is nicht as with the Ramak. So it's not like the Ramak and not like the Rameh Mipano. It's insufficient. No, the Ramak says that Ein Sof is Kayal Atzmus. And according to the Arizal, Kevin is arguing that Ein Sof is Kayal Atzmus. Because Rameh Mipano says that Keser is Ein Sof. And according to the Arizal, Keser is Pchina Tachtein Shebe Ein Sof. It means Keser itself is not Ein Sof. The Pchina Yena Shebe Keser, Pchina Tachtein Shebe Ein Sof. That's the Befen Klali, and the Arizal, the way the Rebbe Shmuel is Mevayer, the Arizal is not getached. You see, this whole idea here that according to the Arizal, the Musig of Ein Sof is a Memutze, the Rebbe Shmuel builds it out. It's not tzaddik, but it's not getached. And the Arizal is Mevayer, the Alter Rebbe is Mevayer that according to the Arizal, it's the Musig of Eir, and that's but it's not Mefurish in the Arizal. That's the Alter Rebbe's Lashon here. I'm Chidesh Rabbeinu Zal. We'll see later.
One can say that Ein Sof can't cancel this.
Tzaddik. Ramakol Evada. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll see. He's Mefaret later. You said you live for Jerusalem, right? He's Meirich, but Arichas Delam. We'll have to see that part. Arichas Delam, saying he discusses the good. So here he brings the Lahavin. This is you just see this lashon again. He says Lahavin Mabchin Azu Anikri Ein Sof. You know, it's the Pshat and the Arizal. So Lahavin Ma'ich Riach Sana Makla Farish Ein Sof Kayal Atzmos. And Pashas that Varam we have a shtickle Shaila Vika Mazagan that himself is speaking about Atzmos. If we're dealing with Atzmos, had Medav Zagan in Litchila. He said in the beginning, the Vrei Masi Shaper, according to the Kabbalah Marishainim, Asi Shaper, why in Tzifrei Kabbalah? The Elikus is called Ein Sof and Ari in Litchila, because we're dealing with Kesef. So what my Chiras Ramak Lefarish against the Kabbalah which came before the Ramak. The Ramak come to Hachodesh better. So what was Machriya the Ramak to say Lefarish, the Ein Sof Kayal Atzmos? Kumeikel of Mashchiras and Kabbalah Marishainim Lo Leimar, Shakeser and Nikri Ein Sof. Lepel, there's a Deichak according to the Kabbalah Marishainim, L'Shita Sam. Keser is not Mechudesh. We'll see later. That's a deichak. To say that Keser is not Mechudesh is a shverikait. So what was the hechrech from the Kabbalah to say that Keser is not Mechudesh? In other words, these 3 days, so to speak, 3 days that we have in the Arizal, the Ramak, and the Kabbalah Marishainim, what are we dealing with? First, the ganze Shakavetari. In other words, the Gavas handelt sich. What's the Somach Lekes? The Gabi Keser, the Gabi Ein Sof. What are we dealing with? So he said that the Yisad Advarim is the Inyan of Aniyah violation Nisi, and there's 3 Efanim to explain how Aniyah violation Nisi. That's Ein Nekuda. But before so the way they say that Maimer is, first he brings the Etzem Inyan of Aniyah violation Nisi. Then he brings the Mustig of Ein Sof. And then both of these Inyanim are going to explain in Vasit Tali the Drashitas. We'll see later. So there's really 2 nekudas over here. One Inyan we have to explain Aniyah violation Nisi. The Idach we have to explain how Ein Sof is Dafka Atzmos. And these 2 things, Vitzu Metavach Zayin, in them in them besteht the Yisos for the 3 shittas of the Mekabbalah Marishainim, the Ramak, and the Arizal. Oh, so Lomar Bissel, the Aniyah violation Nisi. The Elm is Vakanta Bissel with the minions. Yeah, Lomar Anibim. V'inu din Iksiv, Aniyah violation Nisi. What's meant? That's Shaloi Yesh Shum Shini Klal Mitzad Des Havas Eilemis. Yeah, that there's no Shini Mitzad Des Havas Eilemis. Kamaimer Atohu Achlei Nivre Eilam V'Atohu Chulu. Yeah, Lashon Chassidus. What's the Chiddush? Says the same way the Eibusher existed before he created the world. Atohu, he exists even after the world is created. The once the world is created, the Eibusher stopped existing. What's that from Zagan? Atohu Kedush Nivre Eilam and Afil Lachash Nivre Eilam is Erechda. So it says Atohu the Zelber Atoh. There's no change in that. No. See, there you have sometimes in the Alter Rebbe's Mevarish and Tanya that Amol, that Gosha Aniyah violation Nisi is as Evot Emeret Vegen Shini B'Achdusei. Saying Atu that there's no Shini in the Lukus, there's no Shini in the Achdus of the Eivish. Punkt Azevi Lifnei Abriya. It was hu levadihu. It was only the Metzius of the Eibishter. So there's a lacher Abriya, but Gavena Sakataitach that once now there's another Metzius outside of him. So there's the Eibishter and the Nacha Metzius. Of them Zakon Atu Kedush Nivatu Shalachar Shnivra Elam, that the same way hu levadihu Kedush Nivra Elam, it's hu levadihu Lachar Shnivra Elam. That's why the Alter attaches in Tanya. She'en Shim Shini B'Yichudi V'Achdusi is Baruch. Parak Chof. But here it's a different Adgosha. Not when you get the Shini in Achdus, but a Shini mitzat Havas Elamis. We'll see the Vitash. Let me just say maybe one cloud just to bring a little Agdama to the Indian. That's the Verbara, but that's I mean the cloud's like this. Anytime you have a Kayach that wants to be payal a certain Pu'ula, so the only way for the Kayach to be payal the Pu'ula is if the Kayach exists and he comes to the Darga and to the Makam of the Pu'ula. The Pashta Dugma. If you want to throw a stone, so you want your Kayach Hayat to be payal on the Evan. So the Kayach Hayad, the Kayach Hazikades, and there's a Kayach Nafshi. You have a Nefesh, and the Nefesh hasn't fit a Kayach Hatruah. The Kayach Hatruah should be Yad. There's no way that the Evan's going to fly because of a Kayach Hatruah in your hand. Why is the Evan not going to fly? L'chor, you have a Kayach Hatruah in your hand. In order for the Evan to fly, the Evan has to be Margish the Kayach Hatruah. The fact that in your hand, in the Nefesh is a Kayach Hatruah is not a reason why the Evan should be Nifal through your Kayach. If you want to be Payla Pool on the Evan, so the Kayach has to come and be Payl and be Nirgash, but Makim where he wants to be, where you want the effect to happen. So, and the klal is in order for the Kayach to be Nirgash. So that's number one. Klal number one is that if you have Kayach Aleph and you want to be Payla Pu'ula somewhere else in a Nifal, so in order for the Kayach to be Payla Pu'ula in the Nifal, the Kayach has to be Nirgash, has to be sensed, and has to come to the Makim Nifal, to the Makim where he wants to affect the Pu'ula. That's number one. Number two, that's Mechayev V'inin of Shinui. Because the Kayach, the way he is in the Makir, is higher than the way the Kayach is Payl the Pu'ula. It's Alma Azeh, but I'm saying even the way he's speaking of him in the Gabi Elamis, you don't have to conquest him. It's Alma Azeh. Always the Kayach, the way he is, and it's in the potential, in the Makir, in the Tzuras HaMakir, is less Mitzuyer, and less Megushim than the way the Kayach materializes itself in a Payl Mamish. You see, they have Kayach HaTunu Shebiyad. So the Nefesh itself is a Mahus Ruchnis. The Kayach HaTunu Shebiyad is also a Kayach HaNefesh. And it's a Kayach, the Kayach HaTunu Shebiyad could be Menanea and Kol Minei Ifan. In order for the Evan to be Margish the Kayach HaTunu, so first of all, it can't stay in the same Dargas or Ruchnis, the way it is a Kayach HaNefesh. It has to be Nirgash in the Evan Lepoil. So it has to be Mishtanet. It has to lower itself in order to be sensed by the Evan Gashmi. And that's Mechayev Kama V'Kama Tzimtzumim. That's the class. So any Hashpa Me'elim, we're not dealing with, there's the Musik of Shinui that there's, till now was only him and now it's someone else also. We're dealing with something else. Within him himself there's a Shinui. L'chore, there's another Shad, L'chore is Havasa Elim is Mechayev Shinui within a L'kuz Gufa. Not the fact that there's another Mitzvah. Within a L'kuz Gufa there's a Shinui. Why? Because in order for the Mashpia, that is a Shpa should be Nimshach and to be Poyel. In a Makabel, which is lower than the Mashpia, a Karchach, the Shefa, the Ashpa has to change. You have a Rav and a Talmud. You have the Rav is one Darga, the Talmud is a lower level. If the Rav wants that the Talmud should be Makabel, the Seichel, this Svar of the Rav's Me'ech is Hecher from the Me'ech Talmud. So the Rav has to be, the Svar has to be explained in a more Metzumts in the Ga'ifin that it should be Masim for the Me'ech Talmud. So there has to be a Shini in the Svar. If it's like the Zelba Eifim, the way the Svar is by the Rav, there's no way the Talmud is going to understand it. So the Shaila is like this. The Eibusher is Ein Sof. The Lukus is Ein Sof. The Poel, let's say, speak about Chayis Ha'elamis. The first thing he speaks about. We get B'shaf and Avelta. He said, V'atam HaChayis Kula. The Nivra is Gvul. Elamis are Gvul. You have Tzerdemim, Tzemeh, Cham, they're all Gvul, not Ein Sof. So the V'atam HaChayis Kula, and there's Chayis Eliki, which is Malubish, which gives Chayis to the Ilonis to be Matzmiach. In order for the Chayis, in order for the Ilon to live, which is living a Chayis Mugbul, in order for the Ilan to be Matzmiach Tzmachim, which is the Mugbul, Legabi Ein Sof, the Chayis has to be Nimshach to the Makim Ilan. If the Chayis is going to stay in the Tzur of Ein Sof, there's no way you're going to have a Tzir of Tzmichas Ilanis. The Chayis has to be Misamtzim. If the Chayis is Misamtzim in order to be Mislabish in the Chavez to be Mechayah the Ilan, to Mechayah Mayim, so that's the Shin in the Chayis Eliki. The Chayis Eliki Mitzad Atzma is higher than the Tzir of being Mislabish in this Tzir in Daim Tzimei Chayim Adaber. And in order for the Ilan, for the Nivra Mugbal, to be Makabal Chayis and to live from the Chayis Eliki, which is Mislabish in the Nivraim, so there has to be a Shin in the Chayis. He should be Misamtzim according to the Tzir of the Nivraim. That's Mechayev Shin. So you have kaviyachol two versions of him and Elokus. You have the way you take a Elokus, the Ein Sof of Elokus, and you have the Eibush has mitzamtzim the Chayes Elokis, and he's neifin of tzimtzum. That's in of shina. That's in of tzir legabi Elokus. That means you have you could have Elokus. The Elokus is mufshit from the tzir of Ilam. Mufshit from the tzir of Teim Tzimei Medaber, and you have an Elokus the way he's misamtzim and the way he's mislabish in the tzir of Teim Tzimei Medaber. That's enough shina. So you have two versions. The Dugma is saying when you get to Seichel Arav, the Rav understands the Seichel one way, and explains the Seichel of Mitzchol of Arai to the Talmud in a more mitzumtzim v'kayvim. So now you have two versions of taking the Svara. You have one version of taking the Svara and the way it's mufshit and higher than the Seichel Talmud, Meich Talmud. You have another version of taking the Svara the way it's masim with Meich Talmud. That's enough shina. And Avdem sagt an Niyavai Leisha Nisi Shalei Shum Shini Klam said the Savas Elamis.
Why is Havai going on that low level? Havai could be going hard. Havai could be going the
Havai.
What we say? What? We say Havai Lishnisi.
Maybe okay, we'll see. We're going to see the pratim. So I'm saying the cause that works in the Maimer is mitzad the Chayes Eliki gives a teres right away that it's not a shayla. And the Ani Havai Leishanisi, the Ein Sof is Leishanisi. There's a Chayes Elikis Malubish. That's gvul. I mean, that has to be explained also. What do you mean? What do you mean it's gvul? The Elikus mitzad is Ein Sof, and in order to Mechay the Nivra. So the Ein Sof is not mislavish. So only the Chayes Eliki is the way it's melubash and tzir. But that's also a little percentage of the Chayes Eliki. So the Chayes Eliki, the way it's mislavish in a nivra mugbal. That's a certain percentage. That's already shinu. If you have a Rav which by him he sees in the Svarim Mitzchol Varai he sees blig vol emek, but he gives over to Talmud one dot of the emek that he sees. So l'chor it's still a shinu. Fakert is in a way a bigger shinu. The Rab Mitzadatz sees in the Indian Ein Sof Ashirus, and he gives over 1 point. So that's now that the Indian was misamsim in a very great taifin. But we'll see that he brings right away. But the main arichas in the Maimer is there's one Indian is the Shini in the Chayes Elikim, Atam Chayes Kul, and there's another Indian in the Eshavos. The Keich Eliki affected the creation of a world. This Havos Eilam. So you have the Keich Eliki the way it is beyond affecting Eshavos. The way let's say you say the Eibush is a beira. So you have the Eibush could have created the etzem keich of bria itself. But look, what's like I said when you get to keich hatanua. There's a keich hatanua shebenefesh, which keich hatanua is a hiyuli, could be many different types of tanuas. You could write techves any tzir of alephes, many different types of tanuas. And the poil, in order to make one aleph, he has to be mitzamtzim himself in order for the keich to affect one eis aleph. That's a shinu. Al deras you say the Eibush has a yichilus livri, let's say, as the keich livri yeshmaim. But the Keich Livri Yesh Ma'ayin is a resource that Getan, he could have created so many types of elements, let's say. And he could have, and it's a Keich Liki. In order for it to affect a certain Bria, Punkt is when you get Ksiva. In order for your Keich HaTnua to be Maitzi and Eis Aleph, there has to be a Tzimtzum. So there's in order for the Keich HaBria in Elokus, let's say, to be a Makkah for his Havas Elemis, there had to be a Tzimtzum. So L'chora that's Shinu. But that's one, but that he answers right away, this question. Here, but the other shaila is that the main arichas in the Kabbalah I'm dealing with is that we see that in order to be mahava, this havos, we need a keich ein sof for this havos. The main shaila is the gabi the union of ein sof which affects the bria. Okay, that we'll see. Well, let's first see the vashtei da. Then we'll see why is it not enough. He said, "K'may meratu so shleishim shenikal." They vashtei the meaning, yeah. Shleishim sheniklam says Havas Elam. K'may meratu shlenivrei elam atuhu chulu. Hainu she'enik v'en neshama shemachayis aguf shemespaelis. Umekabelis shinuyim v'kedei aguf. It's not like the neshama. So first it brings the dugma when they get the chayis. So the neshama, the guf mitzadatzma has no chayis. The guf mitzadatzma is basar v'atzamis, and the neshama by the neshama being mislavish in the guf vertalev the gazach. So the klal is that the you can't, if the neshama would stay in the neshama's tnua, there's the chayis the way the neshama lives. The chayis way the neshama lives is tachas haruchnis. The neshama lamayla is tachas haruchnis. If the chayis would stay in the element and in the darga the way the neshama left, Volter guf you can't live from them. The guf is a davar gashmi. In order for the guf to start living, so the chayis has to be nimshach in a eifin that a guf could be markish the chayis. The fact that the nefesh will stay in its pshitis, in its mohus, but the guf is leben davon. You say pashtazach. The Rav is not mit samson the seichel the way the Talmud's meir should understand it, but the Talmud is verstehen because the Indian is not the fi'erach that the Talmud's kelim. So Mimeli says because the neshama, the guf is left from the neshama, that means that the neshama is misamsim the fi'erach haguf, and b'meila it's peil shini. Mispa'el is gabal shini. Mikra guf. It's the very pashut. V'shum lubeshes mamish b'teich lubeshes guf. In other words, let's say weathers. It's cold, warm. So it doesn't only affect the guf. It affects the nefesh also. Why? Because you can't say the whole musik of weather, the neshama k'mishi l'mayla, doesn't get affected. The chavez doesn't get into a bad mood when it's cold outside. Neshama k'mishi l'mayla, there's no musik of cold and warm. So in mahus ruchnis. But mishaz the neshama is melubish beguf. So now the chayis is now in a different version. It was misamtzim to relate and to be mechaya guf, which there is the musagam of the chavez of whatever a guf goes through. So meila b'shas, since the nevesh is misamtzim and the chayis lowered itself down to be in a form of being mechaya guf, so now the chayis is being going to be mispal mishtana from mikra guf. That's shinui. So if you say v'negei telakus, the nivra is gvul. Because the lakus is mechvat and the chayis l'ki is melubash in the nevraim, so al korcha the chayis l'ki is mispal and is mishtana according to the makam of the nevraim. Kum tachana, but they say v'negei tekei chazrika. The keich hatnua has to relate somehow to the musagam which an evan is margish. It becomes a physical pressure, let's say. So there's mispa'el is mekabelas shinuyim from the makam ha-mekabel. He's kind of features from the mekabel. That's shinui. So he speaks here kama dargis. Even though I'm saying we'll go through the pratis the gedag just after the word, but this is the general point that he's saying. Within shinui itself, the Rebbe Shlomo goes through different types of shinuyim. Let's see the way he says. He says like this: you have one darg of the neshama which is melubish mamish b'teich haguf. MSA slapshus, like you're saying before we get to the marshal of Rav Talmud. In order for the Talmud to understand the seichel, understanding the seichel, the idea means that it's niklat b'meich haTalmud. He understands it, he grasps it. In order for it to be niklat, the svara has to lower itself down to be behesim to the Talmud. Yes, it has to push lower itself down to have the same, to be on the level of the Talmud. That's the MSA slapshus. That means that the Elyon comes the fi'ay in the Tachten. That's a slapshus mamash. We'll see later that it could be an ashpo where the Elyon is not mamash mitzamsim to be on the level of the Tachten. The Elyon stays higher than the Tachten. And after Bekain he affects the Tachten. But still there's always a musik, some type of shini. We'll see. He mentions two madrigas within clothing. We'll see what he says. He says, Hainu akeches shel nefesh. We're dealing with keches nefesh. The chatchila, not the muhus nefesh, not the pshitas nefesh. The keches nefesh. K'me keches seichel kecha midis. Heim nitfasim u'mislapshim mamish be'ivre aguf. And they're mekabel shinuyim al yodam. Now, even in the keches, it's also not a shini mamish. We're speaking when you get to Rabbit to this marshal of seichel kechatnua. There, it's mamish. The kechatnua is mishtana. You say there's a shini mamish. There's the Svar the Rav understands it, and the Svar the way the Talmud understands it. It's a whole different level. Here, even when you get to Keches HaNefesh, the slapshes and the Yevarim don't make a shini pnimi in the Keches. He says the shini is only be'efen ha'helem ba'gili shebem. He's not Meir here. I'm just touching the verter. Be'efen ha'helem ba'gili shebem. K'meichili ben katos legadus. Sha'chiliku ba'Yevarim, but this is not shini ba'Keches. So a yellet cut, and Tanya says that the midas are different when you get a yellet cut. The seichel is not fully developed by Yalad Cotton. So Azivot when can sagen, he adds over here that it's only Helem Vigila. Azivot when can sagen that it's not only a shinui in the Helem Vigila, but the Keach HaSeichel. The Keach HaSeichel, when the child is 5 months old, so the Meich is not a Keli yet, the Seichel. The Meich is not fully developed. So how much from the brain, from the Keach HaSeichel, from the intellect of the Nefesh, from Lubish and the Meich, only a Chelik Mitzimtzim of the Keach HaSeichel. When the cotton grows, and his me'ach is developed more, and he becomes a keli more, so it's meir more seichel. But we can zagen that in that, so there's more of the keich seichel meir now in the me'ach. And them zakter, it's not more keich seichel. It's the same keich seichel which is connected to the me'ach. Mi yemi valde ad yemeisei. The chilik is only how much of that keich is mizgal or not. Only a shayla of helam v'gila. It's not a shayla muhuseini. You have a certain type of ashpa where the Rav is mitzams himself fi'erech ha-mekabel, the Elyon is mitzams fi'erech ha-talmid, the fi'erech ha-mekabel, and then if the mekabel is a keli only to the chitzenius Elyon, so only the cheli chitzeni of the Elyon is nimshach. If the talmid is a higher keli, so the previous Elyon is there. So it's not only a shili in helam v'gilu. It's not a shinu that's the same inyan, but it's not fully in his gal. It's a different inyan. It's a cheli chitzeni of the inyan. Here, saying when you get the keras hanefesh, it's not this pshat, the pshat that the yivarim. It's a slapshus pnimis. That means that the keich is in order for them to be nirgash in the yivarim, they have to be misamsum if you erech the yivarim. But Ava Bikain, it's not that the Keach HaSeichel, the way it is in a child, b'muhus, it's a different or more chitzenistic Keach HaSeichel than when he's a gadol. It's the same Keach HaSeichel mamish. But the only difference is, it's not fully bizgalis here. So this brings a rai. I mean, here he doesn't, there's another maimer later, Kol Hashem Alachas, so there he brings a rai, because the Gemara says, butzin mekat fi yediyah. So if the pshat was the one that when the child grows older, so then the seichel guf is mishtana. There's more of the keich ha-seichel nishlabish in the mayach. So then how could you know was tutzach by a cotton? If it's the same keich ha-seichel, elamai wifel von der keich in his gal geworden. It's the same. Every person has a certain not verstehen the word, but there's a certain mahalach. That mahalach starts from his yeld cotton. It's the same keich ha-seichel. The shaila is only in behelim vagili of this keich. It's not fully in his gala, but it's the same keich ha-seichel mamish. Good, that's nicht negay, I'm saying, but the very fact that the be with a poil, and what's the totally the helam vagili is totally in the meich. I mean, the keich ha-seichel, the minute the child grows older, automatically more of the keich is in his gala. So you see, so the keich comes behesim to the aver. Yeah, this wasn't the shmur. It's exactly what's the chilukim in a slapshus. So but he wants to bring out the lesson that he brings before. He says, "Nei violation nisi shelo yesh shum shini klal." Means he wants to bring out not only in Mazak Nei violation nisi shina in the most extreme way of shina. The most extreme way of shina is that the alien comes the fi'erech hatachten, and the alien is behesem to the tzir hatachten. So that would be, the much we say the mashal of a cotton and a gadol. If there would be a shina in the seichel gufa, so that's a shina mamish. The seichel, the way it is in a cotton, is not the same seichel the way it is in a gadol. Masha'enkin, when it's the only a shina in helen v'gilui, it's not the ultimate shina. It's not the hechste darga of shina. It's a more of a dakas shina. It's the same kayach, but the gidol and his dachos ha'ever, and them is totally the gilui of the kayach. But upon him, he wants to bring out, the Rebbe Shah wants to bring out that he's going to bring out different dargas of shina. Edel shinuyim, and even the most minute, the most edel start shinui, in alkus lo yeshum shini klal. There's no tzimtzum klal in order for the ashpah to be Hemshech neilus. Any form of shini is going to be a kasha. You ever see what's zog? Yeah, that's. Meir chil nekatz zagan. Shachid ko ba'ivarim, but there's not a shini ba'keiches. Yeah, mish kasam go acher. So now, here when you get keiches and nefesh is one type of shini. Yeah, we'll see later, in Zeis Chukas, a little more of a beer on this prat, the more the Indian, the Keach, is more mufshit from Tzir, less mitzuyr, more edel, more pshitazdik, so the more the Shina is more bedakos. The Keachas, which are in Yadam of Tzir Mamish, the Keach HaTanua, so there, when it's Mashpia and a Makabel, the Shinuyim are going to be Shinuyim with the Mahusa Keach. Let's say if someone's throwing more keach and less keach, picking up a shvera masa or a masa kala, is not only a chilik of helam megilui. There's more energy used there than used here. The keich atnu, there's a chilik of mohus also. Mashiach, the more the inyanim are keiches, which they're more gili nefesh, like seichu, which is more of a inyan nafshi. So there, the shinuyim are going to be always edel shinuyim. Only shinuyim and katas v'gadas, but in the mohus mamish there's no shinuyim. There's no real shinuyim mohus. The fact that Shinei Helen Vigili means that there's a certain hasame between the Keich HaSeichel and the Evarim. Because if the Keich HaSeichel had no Shaychas Klal to the Evarim, then it wouldn't even inside the Helen Vigili wouldn't affect the fact that the Evarim became more edel. The fact that the Evarim are more ezgedelt, the Keich HaSeichel is more mizgale, that means that there is a relation to the Keich HaSeichel and the Evarim. A relation means that's already Shinei. That means you have the Keich HaSeichel the way he's mufshit from the Meir. The Neshama Eder is in Slavish and Guf. The Nefesh is mufshit from the Meir. And you have the Keich HaSeichel the way it's connected to the Meir. But that's already a shini. But it's not his slap shesmamish. The fi erech saying keres nemuchim. But that's one thing. But then if gam etzem an nefesh, hagam there is not shaykh to say shnapsus shesmamish. You speak about the person himself, the etzem chayim, let's say. The etzem fact that he's alive. That is not shaykh to say that the person is more alive when he grows older than when he's younger. Or the eye of the person himself, verte besmer gresser, was nizgala more when he gets older. So the same eye, the same Reuven when he's tinik ben yeme, is when he's the same mahus, and there's no shin in the mahus. When he's later also, his seichel amidus are nizgala more. His identity darten, his style, his personality darten is developed. The seichel amidus are developed. But the mahusa adam, the mahusa chayes, there's no shin in yemi valdi ad yemese. Means even though the guf is mishtana, but that is not that doesn't come lefi erech deivar. that the Elyon Kameshahu is Meir. It's not the Elyon the way he's mishtayach to the Kalim. If it was the Elyon, the way he relates to the Makam HaMekabel, then there should be Shinuyim, according to the Shinui the Mekabel. Behus HaChai, the Etzem HaNefesh, the Behus HaChai is Mizgale Kfishahu, he's Mizgale. But even though he's Mizgale Kfishahu, there is a Shinui. There is the way the Nefesh is Mufshit Mashaychus Taguf, and the way the Nefesh connects himself with a Guf. It's not a Shinui Pnimi, but there's a Shinui. The Nefesh, the way it is Mitzadatzmei, before there's a slapshus altogether, before there's Shaychus to the Guf, says no Shaychus, it's not Shaychus to the Guf, shall live from the Nefesh. If the Nefesh, the way he is B'mhusi Ha'atzmi, says no Shaychus to the Guf, how could the Guf live from it? So even when you speak about the most edel sta'efen of Hamshach of Elyon Tatachtin, where the Elyon is not Mitzamsel Ferach Tatachtin, but Episa, a Gevisser slapshus there has to be. It means a certain Kiruv to the Mekabel there has to be. If there's no Tnu of Kiruv at all, that in other words, by definition means that he has no connection with this Mekabel, that the Mekabel left this for him. He brings over here. Let's see there's no Shinui, not even Gilui. No. The Mahos Achayis, and the fact that the person's alive is Mizgala more B'Hemshech Achayim. Let's speak. There's different musig. We speak what's the Nukud of Etzem Achayim, but let's speak about the musig of the very fact that he's alive, not the Seichel Amidus. That grows during a person's lifetime, or the very eye of the person. That doesn't change. The same Ruvain when he's when Shmenas Yom is Zal Bezach. There's no Shini in that. Seichel Amidus is Mispateach. The character of a person can be Mispateach, but the Mahus HaNefesh is the same. It doesn't come take a basin to the guf. Ve'im b'shnei nekatas v'gadlus. Mikom kari nitfeses gamkin b'guf v'mugdares by. Where's the right that he's mugdar by? Shari be'eshim achayas ha'guf hazeh in yochel achas guf acher. We'll see this prat in his marriage again as his chukas. But the nefesh can't be mechay basically when you say when you get to the Eir HaShemesh. The Eir HaShemesh could be Meir. You see, you have the sun, and he gives light in his mashpia to different types of nivraim. The nefesh connects himself to this guf. He's being mechayah this guf. He's not mechayah lefi erech haguf, but there's a tzutrag that his inyan should be nizgal in this mekabel, not lefi erech mekabel, not according to the tzir of the mekabel, but there's a contact that the mashpia focuses on this mekabel. That's a tnu of kiruv. In other words, if there would be no kesher between the mashpia and the mekabel, so in other words, it means that the ashpa is mushtit from the mekabel. But I understand how the ashpa works from Metzah Nefesh if he's not missing. But the Nekudas Advarim is there cannot be ashpa in Ephraim. That's what he wants to bring out here. The most edel sta'efen and the highest epitome of hashpa, which and the highest epitome of hashpa without being misamshel leferach hamekabel. But in Ephraim there cannot be ashpa. Seiden there's the alien there's some kira between the alien and the tacht. There's some slapshus, some focus from the alien to the tacht. Because if there's no focus at all, that means he stays in his own mahus. By definition, it means that he's not shaykhs tashpa. He's in zich, not relating to a mekabel. If he's in zich, so the mekabel won't have him. So the mekabel won't be an margishim. If the nefesh is b'mhusei atzmi, b'mhusei kameshuhu, then no guf will be alive from him. In order for his inyan to be nirgish in a guf, even if we're dealing with his inyan kameshuhu being nirgish in a guf, but there has to be some kiruv to a guf. And that's by definition. It's a very edel shina, because the chayis doesn't come with the erech guf. But that alone, the fact that he's mugdar in this guf, that's the nekud of shina. Means it's not the way the way the nefesh is mufshit from mashaychus to a specific mekabel. He's mufshit from mashaychus to this guf or that guf, and you have the way the nefesh is misamtzim, or that he's connected after to this mekabel, to this guf. That's the nekud of shina. He wants to be gathered in Avraham kenner zam b'ifnach. So he speaks from Sai Beneget to Chayis and Sai Beneget to Mahava Yisamayin Liyesh. We're going to see because the Poil, let's first be Madish Beneget to Chayis, and then we'll see Beneget to being Mahava Yisamayin Liyesh. Beneget to Chayis, let's say. So the Chura also there, the Chura there's a slapshus, and that is slapshus, the Chura is the Keches Pnimim. Means in Sikhat Vatam Chayis Kula. It's not like the nefesh is mislabish, the etzem nefesh is lubish beguf, where there's no shinui mekatas agadus, and the chayis is not mitzumtzim and not mitzir lefi erech haguf. When we're dealing with vatam chayis kulam, every nivra is mekabel chayis behesin to the tzir of the nivra. In semeach is mislabish the keichat semeach, and in chayis is mislabish the chayis and nefesh, and every bal chay according to the chayis which is masin to the tzir of that bal chay. So the chodesh is slapshus in saderech keichus. Even the more shinui. The gabe is havus, we speak of the Eibishter being mahavet in Nivra Mayan Liyesh, so there's al derech the slapshus of etzma nefesh, because the mahave is not mahave in a way that he's misamsim lefi erech haguf. The keich haliki creates the nivra. He's not mislabish in the nivra itself to come lefi erke. He's mahave the nivra mayan liyesh. But upon him, but lover I get in their prat as if it's which is the etzem word. So he says mashik mash is baram chayis kol maves mayan liyesh. Ein atzmus is barach mulubash mnitzvos bem chas v'shalom. The first teretz that he says is because the whole system from wann entstammt der chayis ha'elam is kommt es von ihm. When is shaykh to say shinui, you say when you get to seichel, let's say. Rav is being seichel to the Talmud, so which svara does he want to give to the Talmud? The svara that he understood. But the svara, the way it is, Rav is shalei be'erech to the Avon of the Talmud. Yes, people in the svara. So there's a shinui in the seichel Rav. In the svara, which the Rav at Machadesh ben, let's say, there was a shinui. There's the way the Rav understands the svara, the way the Talmud understands the svara. But what if the Rav is b'chal not giving his seichel? The Rav is giving chveis, get geld tzveten. So it's not shaykh to say that, because he's giving money, it's a shini in the seichel. The seichel, there was no shini at all. So Al Derzeh says, the etzem of Elokus wasn't nimshach and elamis b'chlal. The etzem of Elokus, Yebisher Zein Sof, the b'chal wasn't nimshach and elamis. Not even a percentage of it. What's nimshach and elamis? Only Elokus, the Elokus is shaykh to gvul. That's not the etzem of Elokus altogether. In the etzem, there was no shini at all. I will see the pratim. That's the first teretz that he says. He's like this. The etzem for Elokus is b'chla gizach hishtareis in Abriya. Rak b'dvara v'yishemayim naso. What do you want to bring out with Dibur? So the same way he says negate the Dibur. When a person speaks, he says the Dibur Adam doesn't have any percentage of the Muhusa nefesh, of the etzem nefesh. There's nothing of the nefesh that's used when a person speaks. The whole shefa dibur is a keach chitzeni of the nefesh. The primus nefesh not even a percentage of it doesn't exist over there. We'll see the pratim, but the chitzeni is a nefesh. So it's not trying to say shini. Shini is trying to say if the etzem is mislabish, is mashpia. If the etzem is being mislabish in a makabel, so he has to be miskadav to the makabel. But if the etzem could b'chal nishtan to the makabel is getting something which is b'chal nothing to do with his muhus. Not as previous altogether. So Mela, there's no shina. That's the code of the first teretz. Let's just see the lashon the way he says it. So first, let's see the. Ein atzmus berach mlubish nitzvos b'm chas v'shalom. Rak b'dvar v'yishemayim nasa v'ro piv katzvam. Avshei le'dum saguf. Achdiber terek lashon b'yadam. Hu k'mei l'moshel b'nefesh ha'adam. Shadibur shebedaber l'zolose. Ein b'chinas atzmi shel ha'nefesh klal. Kim chitzeni shel ha'nefesh b'lvat. He brings pashut mitzad the hevel ha'dibur mitzad the chayis shebezer. In nechser klal ba'nefesh meriv dibur shebedaber l'zolose. Afi sheyidaber harbe ein nechser klal me'anefesh. Yeah, it's over here. It's mashma that hevel ha'dibur. He's speaking pashut the gashmis. The keich ha'dibur doesn't snemt garnish in the nefesh. A mensch can read without him. There's no energy used from his own nefesh when he speaks. A person can speak shoyes without getting tired. Dibur is not ma'ayiv of a person. A person gets tired because they're lake tarayin. He has certain passion that he brings into the dibur. Dibur mitzad atzmai is not teifis any keich nefesh. That's what it's saying. Why is it? Because dibur is a zamasert keich which has nothing to do with primus nefesh. Ms. Masbert a couple of times that Rebbe brings a reminder that saying the way keich dibur, the way it expresses itself l'poil mamish, when a person speaks. So what we see, the hevel dibur leaves the person lagamri. The hevel dibur leaves the person. There's no other keichas that a person chaves machshava. Machshava stays in the nefesh. Machshava stays. When a person speaks, the eisei dibur, which come from the nefesh, but the eisei dibur when a person speaks, leave him. So there says it's not stam of vart l'pel mamish. That's the way a person speaks. L'chatchila, the whole keich dibur is a keich for the person to be able to affect something outside of him. It's a keich which has nothing to do with him. It's a keich to be able to. It's a keich to relate to someone else. Nothing to do with the nefesh taka. It's a keich to be able to detach himself from himself and to focus on someone else. Has nothing to do with it. So does zayin ruhos. That's what type of keich dibur is. That's why, technically speaking, when dibur plays itself out l'pel mamish, the hevel dibur doesn't happen within the person himself. It happens outside of him. Because what's the keich dibur? It's not a keich for the person. It's a keich for someone else to be able to hear. That's what the keich is. It's not a keach which has anything to do with the nefesh. It's a keach that in Yanni is the ability to be able to leave the nefesh, to be able to detach himself from himself and to relate to someone else. So mitzad the inyan shebezeh, mitzad the muhus of keach hadibur, there's not the nefesh. The keach hadibur doesn't contain anything from the nefesh. A mensch tracht, so machshav is something which is negiat the muhus nefesh itself.
You can't say something. You can't bring it.
That's because of pile, because you're putting teichen. But the inyan of keach hadibur itself has nothing to do with teichen. That's already davar neis. That's because you're being malbish in the keach. Good, right. But the keach hadibur itself is a keach which in Yanni is to be able to it's a keach for period. It's a keach to be able to focus on a zulas, not nicht allein sein rein. It's not about bringing myself somewhere else. It's about focusing on someone else, being a makkah for a zulas. And saying b'meile, there's nothing of the nefesh there. When I try to say there's the person's own life, let's say, his tzir and nefesh, his keich, his seichel, his midas, that's all his tzir, his muhus, his chayis, his etzim, and then his keiches. That's his tzir keim. Dibur has nothing to do with his tzir keim. Dibur is a keich that a zula should be able to hear. Nothing to do with me, b'chlal. It's as if you have a keich in the nefesh for someone else, not for yourself. You have speakers. It's not there for me. It's there for someone else to hear. So you have kaviyach. You have a keich in the nefesh that's not there for the sake of the nefesh, b'chlal. It's a keich that's there for someone else. It's a shayla chassidus. Wie kommt es b'chlal? There's a keich dibur in the nefesh. L'chore, that how does the nefesh contain something which has nothing to do with its mahus? That's what he's saying over here. Dibur is, he says, I'm saying the dibur, the way the dibur functions, the payal mamish, reflects what the mahus of keich dibur is. As he brings here, that b'shas a person speaks, hadibur shenam zolasi eini pchinas atzmi shel nefesh klal. It's nicht it's not his mahus. There's nothing of his mahus there. It's the way the nefesh is klal b'chutz. It's for someone else it's all for the sake of someone else. It's not the nefesh's mahus. There's nothing of the mahus nefesh there. So whatever happens in dibur is kaviyach nothing to do with me. Dort nishto. When a shaykh says shinui, if my inyan is nimshach tal makabel, so then there's the inyan the way it is by me, and the inyan the way it is by the makabel. There's a shinui. Here, if you say dibur, it's not my inyan being nimshach b'chlal. L'chatchil it's azulas. So the whole chayis of the kiyah v'elam is the premise of elokus hat b'chanishtam mit is. The whole makar stems from that argument of elokus, which in Yoni is to be a makar l'zulas, for the sake a koyach that a welt will learn. But zayin inyan what elokus is not expressed at all, not even a mute. So there's no shini. What elokus is, let's say the mahus of elokus, let's say is ein seif. Das gibt sich nicht in Welt b'chlal. Was hat in der Welt? Ich weiß, der Ebesh ist in der Fleiß der Teve, all in Yanim Gvul.
That's not the way it's by a person. Most times when a person speaks, he is bringing out something.
Good, but here what he brings out, he's saying that it's all the Zulas. There's nothing of his most being brought up. Yeah.
That's its purpose. That's its protocol. But at the end of the day, it's being mechayv by nefesh.
What do you mean?
The keich dibur or the worlds are being.
You're asking if it's not primus nefesh klal, how does it exist?
Meaning, you're right. You're saying
that's your question.
Is for the zulas.
It's not a purpose. It's not only a question of purpose.
It's
a keich which doesn't relate to the primus nefesh.
At the end of the day, where's it coming from? At the end of the day,
I'm saying imagine a person. What I'm saying is imagine a person had ability in himself to move money. Nothing to do with him. There's my mohus. My mohus is not. It's not. I'm not giving. It's shina is when a little bit of me is going somewhere else. It's not me. I have a power to move coins. It's nothing to do with me. There's coins, and a person has a care that coin should be moved. So you can say that Amishtana. Nothing of the nefesh was nimshach there. The nefesh stayed in the nefesh's world, and there was a shini in something which has no shaykhs to me altogether.
The fact that you were involved in this thing at that.
It's not me.
You were involved in giving.
What do you mean you was involved? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but the shayla is, even though you say that dibur is nyanim mishul azulas, and it's chitzenis nefesh klal, but from my understanding, the dibur comes from the nefesh. So l'chora that itself is a musig of shini. There's the nefesh. The nefesh has to activate the keich dibur. You say the nefesh doesn't activate the keich dibur. Keich dibur has nothing from the keich nefesh there. There's nothing from the muhus nefesh. So if there's nothing from the muhus nefesh, where does it come from? Chitzenis itself brings within itself things. Alt darf doch stammen from the primus nefesh l'chora. Okay, that's what you're asking. That's the difference. Okay, we'll see. Let's see first. By the way, it's mitzayir the gufin.
The other thing you're saying that it comes from the chitzenis of the nefesh. You were explaining before that.
I'm saying first you have to appreciate what he's saying. The guf adavar what he's saying. He's saying here that adibur shalom is any pchinas atzmi shel nefesh klal. Means the premise of what the nefesh is, dibur doesn't contain anything of that. Not be why are you adding words that I'm saying?
Is that not?
I don't know why you just added that. I don't get. I said that.
No, but the emes has to be.
You're saying that. I'm saying I don't know. What do we know? What has to be? It doesn't have to be. First Danish. We know it has to be. I'm saying. I'm asking. We're gonna. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not saying. I have no idea what has to be. We're learning Maimon. We don't know anything how things have to be. I'm saying where does it come from? From the Etzman Nefesh. Things don't begin from Chetzenis. Okay, but that we'll see. I'm saying that's a quote. We're not making maskanas from this. I'm saying that's not chashal. We have to first understand the goof of the Maimon is saying. Shadibah shemidam bezulasi eine pchinas atzmius shel nefesh klal. So where you that wissen the ki im chitzenish nefesh levad. He says ki ein nechser klal man nefesh bereib dibur. You say a person's is gonna move something. So now I used nechser doesn't necessarily mean that saying a person uses his energy to move a table. So in order for this table to be moved, he had to push it. He needed some energy from somewhere. Where did that energy come from the nefesh? So a little bit of my energy was used to push this table. That's it. So in order for the energy which comes from my nefesh to affect the pushing of this table, it had to be nimshech and to be nirgash in this pula. If the energy would stay in the potential state the way it is in the nefesh, before I went to push, before I went to pick up a masa kveda, it wouldn't do anything. It has to come out in a way that's shaykhis tapula. The person gets tired. That's called you're using out your keach, and that's geir in a certain chalishas. He says by dibur ein nechser klal b'nefesh merev dibur. The person speaking, where is the speaking coming from? Saying it's coming from him. He says it's not coming from him. There's nothing from him that's used when it comes to speaking. So when I'm pushing something, the push is coming from somewhere. It's not coming from mechveis my seichel. So my seichel is not going to get tired from pushing the Evan. And there's nothing from my seichel there. But there's something from the keich hayat is going there. So the keich hayat is going to be nimshach there. He says b'shas amen shret the keich hadibur. The keich hadibur is working, but the keich hadibur named garnish from the nefesh. So that means that what? That keich hadibur has nothing to do, and doesn't have is not nimshach, and doesn't contain within itself. Like I say, pushing the table contains within itself the keich hatnuah. Let's say, speaking doesn't contain within itself any inyan of the nefesh, any inyan of the keich nefesh. It's an external inyan legamri. What does external mean? Outside kaviyachol of the nefesh, not the nefesh itself. That's what he says here. And that's why the person doesn't become tired. Speaking itself, gered and shais. People, if you have maybe that can be gered and shais the hanan. There's no ayefus kala kalam. It's at etzem dibur. It has a common issue with the Shamish Loss. Actually, Dabar Harbi has a common issue. Maybe it would have been a better teva if it was given a bisschen vermatert. Reden so viel. Good. Here, you mentioned something. Just this Hagah. No, you're saying that Lepoil, when we speak, there's the dibur itself. Lepoil, a person, Zay Darvzain. When you're speaking of something, you want to bring out a certain idea or a certain regesh. It's neveah from a certain inyan that you want to express through your dibur. So there's keiches shamudobish there. It's at that, the keiches and nefesh, the seichel midis, that's a part of the tzir nefesh. When a person's speaking, so he's not stam saying dibur. It's not only the keicha dibur is being activated. There's the keiches haseichel midis which are being nimshach in the dibur. And it's at that, there's a slapshus and shinuk. But he says here a word. So he says like this. Now if you look at that God, Santa God. So be'emes kenu gam ba'keches legabetzem ha'nefesh. She'ein nefesh lekal nefesh al dei ha'keches. He said, the Rebbe Shav says here, v'neisim shum shini ba'nefesh klal. Ba'nefesh be'emes in gam kenu akar al. Not only dibur b'yachas to the nefesh is davar chitzeni, even keches b'yachas to nefesh is a arab b'vad. Doesn't say chitzeni. We'll see the chilik, but he says that it's a arab b'vad. Arab b'vad means that there's nothing of the muhus nefesh is expressed through the keches. Seichel midis doesn't capture, doesn't contain within themselves the pshitas nefesh. That's my nefesh. So, b'shas a person is mashpia as seichel or is activating his seichel, the pshitas nefesh, the etzem nefesh is not used over here, because when you say seichel midis, when you say the word arab b'vad, you want to bring out that this inyan it stems from the nefesh, but it's ha'ar the nefesh you want to say is that it doesn't contain within itself the mocker, the pnimis nefesh. You have to understand how that's before. What's the pshat of arab b'vad? If it comes from there, then by definition it's not a Arabal Vat. Maybe we'll discuss it. I'm saying, what's the first thing you want to bring out? Let's use the lashon Arabal Vat. What do you want to bring out? We have something which is a makar to something else. So if the something else, the davar abam and a makar, contains within itself the makar, and even in the most mitzumtzum dekaifim, like you say, Mashal when you get to Rav and Talmud, that the seichel, the way that Rav is masber to the Talmud, it's not the seichel the way that Rav understands it, but it's not a Arabal Vat. A bissel from the seichel Rav, a little bit of that idea is nimshach to the Talmud. Then it's not a Arabal Vat. Arabal Vat means you have something which comes from a makar, but the davar habam and a makar doesn't contain anything from the mahus of the makar at all. That's a Arabal Vat. Hagami comes from there. So he says the emes says that even keichas the gabei nefesh. Seichel means the gabei nefesh don't contain the mahus nefesh. They're a Arabal Vat. They're a davar chitzeni the gabei nefesh. So why is he saying it after the gabei dibur? So he says like this. Omnam hadibur hu arech chitzenis edis. Hu arech chitzenis yeser. Means there's darkness in the musig of arech. In the musig of a davar hanimshech min hamakar, which doesn't contain within itself, which doesn't express within itself. The makar, you have different dargis, and even though keich is different klal Arabal Vat, but the dibur is nach aggressor chitzenis. See the lashon there. He says, "Was besteht?" That's interesting. This lashon. Was look at lashon here. He says, "Was besteht that dibur is arech chitzenis yeser." He says, "She'en eise shini v'chisaron gam ba'keiches." What are we dealing with here? It's a very modern zach. The Rebbe Shabbat is explaining here that dibur, we're dealing with. How does he start? He says in the Pneumin that dibur is arech chitzenis legamri from doesn't contain within itself pnimis nefesh. It's arech chitzenis legabe pnimis nefesh. So them sagt them dago l'chore keiches b'chlal or what's that? Because zakos legabe dibur. B'chlal keiches are arech legabe. But what are we dealing with? Keiches are arech legabe pnimis nefesh. Legabe that's of the nefesh. If them sagt you have a dibur is arech chitzenis yeser. What does it mean arech chitzenis yeser? Legabe that's. Even though keiches legabe that's is arech, but dibur is even a bigger arech chitzenis yeser legabe that's. What's the rai? So he says because dibur is even a order the gabi the keiches. How does it come by Hemshech? You understand what I'm saying? Look at the lashon the way he says. He says it's Meir in the Pneumin the Maimer that in nechser klal by nefesh, but the dibur is namis lasi because dibur is only chitzeni shel nefesh b'lvad. Lashon hadibur shel nefesh lasi ein b'chinas atzmi shel nefesh klal. Doesn't contain within itself the atzmi shel nefesh. Ki im chitzeni shel nefesh b'lvad. The same yachas that we're saying the gabi dibur and the etzem nefesh also keiches the gabi etzem nefesh. She'eni nechser klum nefesh al keiches. Why? Because be'emes in gam kirakar levad. Well, that's the nefesh klal. Why b'dvar avay shemayim nasu? When you want to bring out that the whole esavas elements is only a davar chitzeni legamri, masheikin ani avay the etzem is leisha nisi klal because in the shpa and elements nothing of the etzem. Of the Aniyavai is Nimshach and Elam is, so we have to speak deeper. Even Keiches are Davar Chitzein Legabe Nefesh. Yeah, but a deeper or Arech Chitzein is Yeser. Who's that? The deeper is even more. So what are we saying? We mean the Gabi That's Nefesh. So if them She'ein Eitz Shini V'Chisaron and Gamba Keiches. Because deeper doesn't make a Shin. So how does the fact that deeper doesn't make a Shin in the Gabi Keiches show that Legabi the Etzem deeper is more Chitzeinis? Is that what I'm saying? 2 times in a day, but what's the double in a day? No, but I think Hachodesh can tell us. I remember hearing from the Bildis that he's connected with the word that this word that Avila is bringing, it's not when you say ha'arabal vad, it could be that it's a different inyan legamri, it's a different mahos legamri. Keiches HaNefesh in Yonam is the Gilei HaNefesh. Just not the Gilei of the Pshitas HaNefesh, of the Bligvol of the Nefesh, let's say, but the Gilei of the Nefesh in Tzir. So Gvol, Legabi, Bligvol is Be'en Arech. And it's Arabal Vat. Gvol is not a percentage of the Bligvol. Mashek and Dibur, he wants to say that Dibur is not just more mitzumtzim. It's not, in Yonam is not Gilei HaNefesh B'chal. In Yonam is Fruzula. So we're not dealing with Dibur, which the Mechuvin of the Dibur is. That the Keiches should be Nimshach to Azulas, that the Seiches should be Nimshach, then the word would be, then when he says that dibur is be'ein arech, that it's even a arech chitzein legabi hakeiches, he means to say that it's inyani is not hashpa of the keiches b'chal. So inyani is not gili altogether. It's another certain inyan. You understand what I'm saying? This is she'ein eisa shinu chesron gam b'keiches. We're dealing with this type of dibur, which has nothing to do with keiches either. Dibur, which inyani is that the seichel should be nisgalet to azulas. So then there's a chalapachas ashin in the keiches. The keiches are mesamtzim. But here we're dealing with a dibur that's b'chlal not even get the shin gabe. Inyani is not gilui. It's all a keach shein yonei ledaber l'zulas, not to bring his seichel to the zulas, the nisagos to the zulas. And that in so it's b'chal not in it has nothing to do with the nefesh. In keachas in yonim is gilei nefesh. You have gilei the pshitas nefesh, and you have the gilei the nefesh in keachas chacham mebina. So chacham mebina, which are yonim of tzir, of gvul, the guy with the pshitas nefesh, is in a certain sense a audible vad. But it's both one inyan. In Yoni is nefesh, which is nefesh mitzumtzum and nefesh not mitzumtzum. So nefesh mitzumtzum is not a percentage of the nefesh both mitzumtzum. Al derech like gvul, the guy with blikvul shleberech. I mean, we spoke about the keich dibur. I spoke about dibur. Mash'ekin here, I say it's not a word of enarei that it's the same inyan, but if, since it's gvul, so it's be'enarei to the nefesh. It's a different inyan altogether. In Yoni is not the hemshech. It's not behemshech to the nefesh b'chol. It's a keich b'shul azulas. I punked this that the Rebbe said in a mimer once. I looked once for the mimer. I don't remember. I don't think I ever found it. But there's a built a with this word that the Rebbe said that the Rebbe means a dugme in Tanya when the Rebbe means the marshal, the inarech. The Rebbe says perek chof mikolachshiv. So the Rebbe goes through the inner reich of the dargis. So the Rebbe says, "Dibur legabi one dibur legabi keich dibur." It's the inner reich. Dibur legabi machshava, machshava legabi seich lomidus. Huh? Yeah, but then so the Rebbe is very chafal. The Rebbe says the Rebbe means some marshal of Tanya. There's no Tanya.
How things is the koiches there?
Huh?
How things is the
No, something else. That's the standard very chafal. There's some marshal there. Where's the Rebbe say at the end? Misham neil v'nesav the aces b'lshein kolam v'am. Where is that? Said the Rebbe Taish by Fabringen once that has to do with seems to be the Rafsilu kapus. Kapus have word to gabi them. He's at the end. The Torah says that in Eser Pchinas Chabad, there's no aces there. Which means the Moshe Kshnefel says Ave Chem Tebli B'Shel Adam, so there's no aces. It's a Chayvetz Pashut. And then he starts thinking about it. Lachshav L'Harba. So then. The Torah speaks of this. When is this Chadosh Aces? When he starts thinking, so the Torah is not speaking about Aces that in Yonim is a lavush to the Regesh itself. Aces that in Yonim is so it says that this has to do with what he wants to make a sense in the Chsil that isn't even a Gila. It's connected to this. We'll never say enough to see the Pradis, but but when the Kudas Advarim, that's what he wants to bring out over here when they get to Sabbath Elimis. It's not the Pshat, and we're dealing with the Metzias Elimis is Gvul. So there's Ein Sof, let's say. Elimis is all in Yana Gida Lukus, but an Eifen of Gvul. So then it's not Al Derech Dibur. Then it's Al Derech Kechis. Here you want to say that in Eshavos and Chayes Elimis, it's in Yana is not Gila. In Yana is for Litzerech Elimis. Elimis is a Davar Zula Selukus. And the whole V'atam Chayes Kulam is for the sake of the Elimis, for their Mitzias. It's not in of his Gili. It's not his Espashtus. So the guy, so there's no, that's no good, it's not mislavish in it. The Visharech is saying it's the Gamri man. In Prince Asmis Klal Klal. That's the Gabi Dibur. So it's making Klolis, Prince Chayes, and Shabbat, Prince Dibur El. She'ain't the Prince Asmis Klal, Kim Prince Arel Chisenis Levat. But that's the first teretz, we'll have to go back some pratim. But that's the first teretz that are near violation, you see. Because what's the pshayl of the shini that the chayis is nimshach and elemis, but the chayis which is nimshach and elemis is not even is nicht em. The ani avay is b'chal not nimshach and elemis. This blight ba'avdallah is in a begeder elemis law. So in ani avay there's no shini klal. There's taken no shaychus than ani avay in the makab, and the whole system of establishing l'kus and elemis is only mitzat chitzenis. But this only explains the chayis and the ishavos, which is in Yonim of Gvul, which is Hemshech and Elomis. And that taka there's no shayla. The shadow that the Ramak and the Mikolam Hashem are dealing with, that L'chore in his Havos also is expressed, and in order to affect his Havos, Medaf Onkem et Zakeach Ein Sof. So L'chore, if what type of inyan will Kisrun is gathered through his Havos? Only inyanim chitzenim, inyanim which are shayches to Gvul. So then you could say it's Arich Chitzenis the Gamri. It's not the Mahusel Lukus. But the Yizmayrech later, that in order for this Havos to be a Havos Yishma'ayin, that from Onkem et Zakeach Ein Sof. And not only Stamazei Ein Sof, you need to have the Keich of Mitzvah Matzmusei. So l'chori you have the keich of the previous of Elokus, which is expressed and which has to affect the bria. Can't be talking the teretz that it's hard to say in Levad, because the Havos is neveh mitzat keich ein sof. So because of the keich ha'is Havos, which is the keich ein sof, which is in the bria, that's why you have all the three shittas on the Kabbalim, how to deal with that. We'll see the musik of Orat. I'm going to learn, or you wouldn't have a power better to bring them. This shah that I mentioned before, we could skip it, or we could go through the Gufeni. Huh? You never heard?
Never heard.
Nachmal? No, so the etzim Indian that there's a musik of Orat Levad. It's like I understand the Pashta Zach. If it comes from the Makir, so what does it mean that it comes from the Makir but there's no shaykhs to the Makir? It's like Dibur comes from the Nefesh. So what does it mean that Dibur only contains the Chitzenius and Nefesh? And not, it comes from the Etzim Nefesh. Where else is it? What activates the Keich HaDibur if not through the Etzim Nefesh?
Would that be the same music as her?
Same idea, the same lumbus.
Wait till then.
Okay, go to the wait till then. It's better maybe to focus on the Gufa Maimer. This is maybe it's like a kedai. We could wait till then. The same Avana Baruvad is also there. Yeah. But it's in a different Eifen a little bit when you speak of Dibur and you speak of her. But the Etzim Avana of Ha'ar is the same Avana. Sadik Abayr, Sadik Abidir. Okay, maybe it's kedai more go into this and then we'll say that. I should finish it today. Martish, I don't want to stand rush.
It's not just the same Inyan.
Huh?
It's not the same Inyan.
No, come on.
It's not the same Inyan.
It is, but I'm saying I don't know what is it. Kol ma she'in li tchila, yesh li tichla. You have to make. I'm sorry, it is. If yesh li tichla, efshe vet es gerim sein. So vet sein a tchila. Okay, mit my mom shall sein the meaning.
She was going to be the next paragraph.
We'll finish up this and we'll go to the next paragraph. Yeah.
Sunday.
So the element, the elements we're holding in learning this in, we'll learn the andere Sache. Halt schon weiter. Gut, mit Mom shall sein Sunday. This is Yanni Mesedium this time. That shouldn't send me.